All right. There aren't aliens that came. Doesn't happen. No aliens here. Shut up, aliens. All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff. Buy my book. Read my book. Review my book. Um, Interview me about my book. Hey, Captive Desk, buy my book and then interview me about my book. Yeah, that's the ticket. That will do it. That will get me fame somehow. I don't know. All right, Finn. See you next time. Whatever. This video sucked. Not this video. This video is cool. Their video sucked. You know what I'm saying. And
Greetings. Welcome to the Captive Desk. And please join me in welcoming Dan Green to the Captive Desk. You may also know him as Converted Man.
Converted Man.
And he put me to task, as you probably heard. And and we're going to put him to task too. So I bought his book. So we got his book here, and I got notes. Uh-oh. And we're going to grill him. So I hope he's ready. And hello, everybody in the chat. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoy this. It's always good talking with Deconverted Man. He's been on the channel before, and I've been on his channel before. And we've also collaborated on a couple videos together, and we had a lot of fun doing those too. So it's always good to see you, Deconverted Man.
Thank you. You as well. It's good to have you around and getting to know you as a human, and our interactions have been great, and enjoy your content. And yeah, hopefully we reach lots of people with our ideas, that our ideas, are helpful to somebody out there. Whether it's theist or not, I try to challenge, myself and everyone else with the ideas, whatever those ideas might be, because we all have some sort of ideas in our head that we have to be careful, because we're pattern-seeking creatures. So, just because we don't believe in a God, that doesn't mean we can't believe in something else that's bizarre or strange or what have you. These aliens were recently found in Mexico. No, they're not aliens. They're just rebuilt bones of dogs and whatever, made up to look like aliens because somebody was bored or something, But yeah, I started this book when I was just deconverted, and somebody said, "Why don't you write a book?" And I'm like, okay. So I went home and I wrote like the first almost chapter of it, and I had them read it, and they were like, got them to talk about time travel. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that wasn't really my intent, but at least it got you to think about stuff, I guess. Like,
well, why don't we start at the beginning then? Caught between an infinite hope and a finite despair. Why that title?
Well, I like long, lengthy titles that are really hard to say. Well, when I was a theist, I went by Infinite Hope on YouTube. And okay. I had this character, of course. If I was Infinite Hope, then my counterpart had to be Finite Despair. And then, of course, I thought, and Linear Doubt should be a character as well. So he's the greatest of nemesis, and I thought, well, this idea theists will put out that they have an infinite to look forward to. They have an afterlife of some sort. And if there's no God, then you have this finite despair. And I thought I'd play with those ideas of those extremes and show how neither side really has an infinite hope. Neither side really has a finite despair either. That it's not, it's not those extremes. That maybe it is, but, let's play with that idea and, see what we can make with that, to challenge both sides, if you will, challenge the idea of God, but also challenge the idea of what what does it mean to be mortal? Do we know that we what about mortality? What about this and that? And I try to ask a lot of questions, but mostly it's focused on belief in God. And I thought when I made my channel Deconverted Man, I thought, oh, maybe I should change the title, because I'd had the title when when I first deconverted that first year or so, and I thought, nah, I'll leave it as is, and it's probably good, because wound up that there is the Deconverted Man book out there, not by me. And I actually had that guy on my channel to talk to him. So there's another Deconverted Man.
Two of them.
Two of them. It was. I told him if he ever came on YouTube, I'd have to destroy him. As a joke. I was kind of kidding. And then he disappeared off. He said he was kind of done with his website, and I'm like, "Oh, really? Do you want to interview again about that? Like, you're done for now?" And I didn't hear from him, so I'm like, "I guess I win." I'm like, "Oh, he was cool though, but he was a fun guy, and great minds think alike. And it's not a reserved name or anything like that. But it's just I liked the idea, and the titles just seemed to make sense, because I had that kind of flow throughout the book a little bit, at the beginning and at the end. I'm not sure if it was in there a lot, but I tried to make use of that. Those thoughts.
It comes in and out a couple of times.
Yeah. Because we don't, the atheist is portrayed by the theist as not having any hope or meaning. Oh, you can't have, morals are just subjective. They don't, there is no real right or wrong. And there is a right, a real good. And we don't need, whether there's a God or not, there is a good. Whether the fact that we defined what good is doesn't change it. It's like, yeah, that's what it is. There's that concept is alluding to a thing that's real. And so that reality of goodness is really a thing that exists, that you can make better or worse by your action or inaction. So, I just, reject those notions from the theist that place that upon us non-believers, as if, and of course you can disbelieve in God and still think that there's an afterlife if you wanted to, and maybe there is. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah. Boom! You wanted an explosion.
We will find out someday. So no need to rush it. Everybody's gonna
no. Not me. I'm immortal. I've decided that. So yeah.
I plan to live forever.
Yeah.
So far, so good. Right.
Yeah. Well, at least to 1,000. I'd like to live to 1,112. Just because that's how many licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Roll Center with Tootsie Pop. So,
okay,
I've done it twice, so I know it was good. I've done that experiment twice, so that proved it absolutely.
And good to see everybody joining us out there. We got a full house, so good to see everybody. So, and to start off with, in your book, a lot of atheists or people that convert maybe get a bad rap for bad mouthing religion and religious people and all they went through, and it was so horrible, and they lied to me, and I've got all these hang-ups, but not Dan Green. Dan Green doesn't seem to hold a grudge, does he?
No, I mean, everyone has their own experience. I've heard horror stories, so luckily I didn't have that. I wonder if there has been or will be a study done, like a wide scale survey, to find out, those who have deconverted, like where they would fit on, some bar graph, or, percentage that left because of some bad experience versus just, because of thinking it through or arguments or what have you, something compelled them to let it go that wasn't necessarily emotional. And I suspect, I don't have any proof, I just suspect that it would probably be more people that thought their way out rather than felt their way out. There'd still be people that left because of some emotional issue or whatever, but I suspect it would be low. But that's based on the small amount of atheists that I know. So, that doesn't extrapolate outward necessarily. So you have to be careful with that. But I had nothing but good things to say about my time as a Christian, and nothing really bad. There was a couple things that caused me to think about it more. Being in a Pentecostal church and then being in the Church of Christ, that really challenged me, because when I went to the Pentecostal one, they said you have to speak with the tongue or you don't have the Holy Spirit. If you don't have the Holy Spirit, well, then you're not saved. So, okay. And I was like, I asked this guy, I'm like, well, how do I do this? Because I've been praying that God would just do it, and nothing's happening. He's like, you got to fake it at first. I'm like, why? Like, that doesn't fit with me very well, because like, why wouldn't God? I'm desperately pray I was desperately praying that God would take over my mouth, and I'm like, I held my mouth open. I'm like, come on, God, go do it. Like, what? Nothing's happening. I really want this to happen. I'm letting you take over me, and nothing's happening. And this guy's saying, well, you have to fake it. And it's like, well, then I don't want anything to do with it. But I also realized that if they were right, then everybody else, all the other Christians, were screwed, and that didn't seem fair. Um, and then I wound up going to a First Church of Christ, and they had this idea that you had to be baptized in full immersion, and you had to be said in a certain way, I forget what the exact phrasing was, but that mattered too. And then on top of that, you also had to know that that was true. You had to believe all that was true, or it didn't count. And I'm like, so you're telling me, like, soldiers on a battlefield, when they get the last rites done, the Catholic, the priest will, sometimes will baptize them on the field with canteen or whatever, and that doesn't count. And the pastor was like, nope, it doesn't count. And he's like, yeah, and he said, his dad, who was dead, was in hell because he was a Baptist. So he'd been baptized the wrong way, and thus he was in hell. And I'm like, well, if that's right, that's really unfair. Because again, all these percentage of people. And then I looked and I saw, Christianity, about 33% of the world. So if they're right, then everybody else is screwed. So how do I reconcile this? Because I thought God was fair, and it's not looking like God's very fair. So that started me on that terrible questioning journey that will lead you to, out of the faith real quick if you keep asking them pesky questions.
When you bring up a just God, when people, believers usually, suggest that I'm going somewhere hot for things that I have done,
mm-hmm.
I respond, well, isn't your God just? And they
Right.
said, well, of course, yes, my God is just. I said, well, I'm not worried about answering for myself.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Well, if just, the things like we talk about all the time, not accepting, a Noah's Ark story or something, if that's what's, going to be held against us, then so be it. I mean, but I don't think that's just. So.
Well, they're kind of mixed up, because Judaism was an offshoot, or had borrowed heavily from Zoroastrianism. And that system was all about behavior. If you do enough good, you'll go to the good place. If you do too much bad, you'll go to the bad place. And that's it. And it's true whether you believed it or not. It was an inclusive religion. So you didn't have to believe in it for it to still be true according to them. And so the Jews kind of borrowed from that. Abraham, who probably, if Abraham did exist, founded the religion, because somebody had to. Might as well be Abraham,
Sure.
And he
or a lobster.
or lobster, right?
Or lobster.
And he borrowed from Zoroastrianism and other things of the time, and of course used Yahweh as his god, the war god, and probably did so because he wanted to go fight some battles and get some more land for his people, the Jews, and so he did, and he was, they were fairly successful in doing that until they weren't. Um, and then people were kind of pissed off at the Jews for a while, and they've been pissed off at the Jews ever since, for numbers of different silly and reasons that it's like, look, that was years ago that they did that stuff. Like, can you just like get over it? Like, I mean, like the people that are alive now had nothing to do with that. So I don't know, but so yeah, I mean, Christians can get very confused with that because it's kind of baked into the literature of the Bible, where it seems like good behavior is going to save you, but it's not. And the New Testament makes it all worse because, see, as a Jew, there really isn't a paradise per se. They have the idea of maybe Abraham's bosom, but that's kind of like, It's more like you'll die, but you'll be resurrected again once the savior of humanity comes, which he hasn't done yet.
Yeah, there's a day where where they will all be raised up.
Yeah, they'll all be raised up, and so I guess
that's why they want to be buried just right and everything. So
right. Yeah, and the bones are what make you the person, and so that was a Jewish belief for a while. I don't know if it still is, but in fact, that the Catholics that wanted to persecute like some Jewish person dug up their bones and they burned the bones, and like now they're really dead. Yeah, that will show them. But it's like they did that because they knew that their belief was like, if your bones got destroyed, that then it's like that's what God needed to rebuild him. Like, but it's God, he doesn't care. Why would he care? But so in the New Testament, everything gets way worse because Jesus sets out this idea that you have to follow him to get to the Father, and if you don't do that, then you're screwed. So you have this mix of inclusiveness with Judaism and then exclusiveness with Jesus, and so the two don't quite intertwine. And then of course you get theology topped on that, and different doctrines have different ideas about it, but essentially, like, you have to believe in Jesus dying to be saved. You have to believe this set of things. You have to believe Jesus existed, obviously, and then he died, and then okay, that's easy enough. If he lived, he died, and then you have to believe he came back. Okay, well, that's the first weird belief. And then you have to believe that he did that for your sins, and then you have to believe another thing on top of that all believing in those things saves you. And if you do that, and maybe you have to say it out loud at church, maybe you don't have to say it out loud, and and you have, but you definitely have to pray about it, but maybe you don't, as long as you just believe it in your head. And is it by grace or by faith or by works, or do the works matter? Well, you'll do good because you love God, but you don't really have to do good because God will forgive you. So, and it's just kind of like, is it about behavior or not? And they can't decide, because ultimately it isn't. It is about, if you believe this, you're fine. If you don't believe it, you're screwed no matter what. Because no one does good.
You're not telling me that God's word is not clear, are you?
Oh no, it's yeah. Well, that's why there's so many different denominations, because the Christians can't figure it out, because it's a blend of tradition, it's a blend of church doctrine, it's a blend of different religions that existed before them and that existed during the period of Christianity.
And if that was Jesus, he was definitely a radical, because that's a big stray away from the Jesus, the as wise as a rabbi walking around knowing Judaism so well, to take such a radical different view. Or it's somebody else like Paul, saying what Jesus said when he didn't. So it's
right.
That's always confusing too, because
I kind of
when you bring up, Jesus was a Jew, right?
Yeah, he was. He was raised Jewish, so at least purportedly. So And it's weird because his mom has told him to name him Emmanuel, but she names him Jesus. So it's like, what happened there? What did you
To
name
be
him?
born in Bethlehem, and he's Jesus of Nazareth.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Right.
and so there's a whole bunch of things that just don't fit.
All
And
those prophecies came
yeah,
true, though, because when you
right.
can switch
Yeah,
the name and the town,
yeah.
they
You
all
do
come
that.
true.
Right. And of course, and then you get the question of like, well, he goes to the desert and he's tempted. It's like, well, who's writing this? Is somebody secretly following him to listen in on this conversation? Like, and so I've asked Christians and they're like, oh, well, Jesus told his disciples when he came back. I'm like, I don't know about that. It doesn't seem like a person that would brag. Like, hey guys, yeah, I went out to the desert. Satan, you don't know him, but Satan tempted me to jump off a cliff. I didn't do it though.
See, these are all, I think these are more post hoc, that these people were actually doing like their own experience, because you have Jesus, Muhammad, the Buddha, over and over. These, they go off and they do their thing, and then they come back with a revelation.
Right. Yeah, they get tempted or they face the crisis that it's a story. It's constructed as a if you changed in the beginning to once upon a time, that's what the Bible is. It's a story, and that's why they put Revelation in there. They voted in on that on Council of Nicaea because it seems like a good ending to the story. Because otherwise, it ends in Acts and like okay, whatever. So there's a narrative. You have a beginning, a middle, and end, and you have the journey of somebody that is called to adventure. He faces a crisis. He's killed, but he conquers that and comes back triumphantly. Then he buggers off again because he has to return home, forever changed. So it's the typical hero's journey, just with some mystical elements added in. But as a believer, I didn't see it that way. I only was able to see it that way once I no longer believed. It's so weird how many things you just believe as a believer without having actually read deeply the Bible or really studied it or looked at it. Many believers are just content with the very surface level of understanding that they have, and I was frustrated as with that as a theist. So now I'm a skeptic. I'm like doubly you know frustrated by it. It's like, not only are you a bad apologist, well, not the good one exists, like your argument sucks, plus you're a bad Christian, cut it out. It's like you know uh,
Well, you like, say, I don't want to give away too much of the book, but
mm,
you still call a lot of people from your church days friends, and like I said, you don't bear ill will or anything. What about God? Do you hate God? Were you mad at God?
no, because when I lost the belief in God, um everything in me, I wanted God to be there for me towards the end. And I was in the corner of my room in the fetal position, crying my eyes out. I could taste the salt of my eyes. They stung. It stung like, and I was just crying that hard. And I was like, okay, I need something. Just give me this little zap that you've given me in the past, and nothing happened, and I hadn't gotten any signs or anything. But in the little zap that I'm talking about, I'd had that happen before if I had asked for it during prayer. I'd say, hey, can I get a little zap? And it'd be like, ooh, this little sort of like sensation in my spine or whatever. But when I needed it most, it didn't happen. And so I'm like, well, what's left? Because I already had, at that point, I'd already realized that there wasn't evidence. And I'd already realized that the argument sucked. So I had nothing but pure faith. And I needed God to just give me something. And when it didn't happen, I'm like, well, there isn't a God. It or doesn't care about me anymore. I was just sad more than anything else. I wasn't angry at you know. I suppose you could be upset at God just as much as you could be upset at Jar Jar Binks. I don't think that it not existing means you can't be angry at it. Um, I was angry for other reasons. I was upset for other reasons. I felt like maybe I'd wasted a lot of time and energy on this stuff, um, and writing the book helped me to kind of feel better about that because I recontextualized. I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't waste time because I met these people that were good people and they had these adventures that I wouldn't have had. So,
But you redirected your thinking and everything, and went in a
yeah,
logical tangent. Then, right?
right.
That
Logic.
that kind of a replacement for something that was missing.
Yeah, yeah. Logic. I felt in love with logic, and want and I still, try to restudy it and keep myself, you know, uh, sharp on that level. Um, and reason or logic or science or all of those things, understanding the world the way it really is amazing. It's just, you don't need to add more to it. It doesn't. You don't have to add magic to make it more amazing than it is. The idea that we're all just here, this whole universe is here, and bleeped if we know why or how or whatever. What does it mean? Bleeped if we know. That's amazing. It's like we could possibly maybe figure that out. Maybe it's going to be boring. Maybe the answer is going to be some mathematical formula that nobody understands, or maybe it'll be really simple, like 42 or something. They'll be like, ha, yeah, and equals
It's got to
42.
be got to be 42.
Yeah, so it actually is. See, and it's like, but whatever it is, whatever that answer is, for many people, they'll still say, well, God did that. Because you can always have God do the thing, whatever it is. You go, well, why is there, because people like to say, why is there something rather than nothing? I don't know. Maybe nothing's impossible. But
That's one of my notes.
mm,
Why don't we let me find my note on that, um, because I discussed this when I was on with the Muslims the one day,
mm,
and I actually got them to agree that, yeah, the nothing argument is a bad argument. And yeah, when I read your comment in the book, my note here says nothing, because I know you and I both, when we hear that, it's like, oh, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, what do you mean by nothing? What does the person mean? Because I mean, there's a definition of it that's widely accepted, but people can have their own individual definitions, and more often than not, they do. Um, but typically, they're referring to the philosophical nothing. And it's like an absence of
But
everything.
it's
Okay.
not, yeah, it's not a claim being made by anybody, though, is the
Right.
problem.
Yeah, that's another problem. But let's just go with it. Okay, so there's nothing. Okay. And then then what? Well, you can't have something come from it. I'm like, wait a minute, it sounds like a rule. I thought you said there was nothing. If there's a rule, then that's something. So it wasn't nothing because you said there was a rule. So you don't have a true nothing then. True nothing is a paradox. It would collapse in on itself and also make everything because there would be nothing to stop it from doing stuff because there's no anything, no rules, no logic, no law of identity, no law of at all. And so if you
And of
had
course,
that,
Lawrence Krauss stirred everybody up when he
yeah,
said,
of course,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
have his book, and it is explained in the book, but of course he had to say nothing. Just
Yeah, it's a
and he did it on
secondary.
purpose. He did
Yeah.
it on purpose.
It's
But
N two. It's nothing two. It's the secondary nothing. It's not the
just to
philosophical
be
nothing.
clear, when they're talking about nothing, they're talking about before there was space time.
Right.
There was
Whatever
nothing
that
to have a
was.
universe in because the universe hadn't expanded yet to have anything in.
Yeah, but the universe is
But there
all
was still
yeah,
something.
right. And it's reality, whatever that is, whatever the true nature of reality really is, and bleeped if we know what that is. But instead of that, we could easily ask the question, well, why is there God rather than not God? Same
because
question.
it's just necessary,
Right. Well, then the universe is just necessary. Save a step, like Carl Sagan said. Just save a step rather than saying, if you want to say that God's the thing that made it, why not just say, well, the universe is. Well, we don't have the universe. Well, what do you call the stuff that's there? If the universe is this little tiny dot, right? And you go, okay, yeah. And you go, okay, all this stuff that's around it. What's that? What do you call that? It's like, what's the name to that? We don't have a name for it. It's just reality. It's not the universe because the universe is a tiny dot, and so. But what's around it? Space. What's the name of that? So, we haven't named it. Humans haven't named that. So you could call it the metaverse, the multiverse. You could call it whatever. I just go, well, it's reality. Reality is there, whatever that is. And how does that work? Well, I don't know, but it doesn't matter because everything that we know is in that tiny dot and it hasn't moved yet. And it's like, well, what if there wasn't a dot? And then you just have, well, what's there? Like, I don't know. No one knows.
And speaking of what's, one of your what's is what is God? Now, have you gotten a better definition since you wrote your book on what is God from anybody?
I've gotten many definitions. I've never gotten one. That's kind of the problem. Everybody has a version of God that they like, if you will, or that they've been told, or either they came to believe it on their own or they were told about it. Either way, whatever. And so God is whatever you want it to be. It's many things to all and none to some, and and so God isn't necessarily the maker of the universe in some religions. uh, God simply is the primal force that exists, and it's apart from the universe, and the universe is a separate thing that God just is aware of but has no part in. It's just kind of like God's over here and the universe is over here, and God's just like watching and going like, yeah, that's interesting. And for others, God is the creator of everything. Some, like Brahma, you have the opening and closing of the eye. So Brahma's eyeball is the universe, I guess. And where's God chilling while it's opening and closing its eye? Who knows? It's sitting out there in space, or maybe it's on another planet. Well, where's that planet? It's in its own universe. Well, who made that universe? A different God. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't have to make sense because God can be whatever you want it to be. Star Trek, Kirk says, maybe God's here, and he points, he's like, in the human heart. It's like, yeah, sure, God's that too, whatever. So the problem is, because there's all these versions of what God is, when somebody says, well, you don't believe in God, I'm like, well, what the bleep are you even talking about? Yeah, probably not. I don't know. Depending if God equals, a Pikachu here, then yes, I believe that that's a thing because there it is, and we're gonna call him God now. That's its proper name. We decided to name Pikachu God. Okay, God exists because I named my Pikachu God, and you could name your cat God and go, hey God, come here, God, and God would come and knock your stuff off the desk. You'd be like, God damn it, God, get off the goddamn thing, God, whatever it is. And you're gonna have to edit that later. I forgot, I'm not supposed to swear. God. Anyways, but and God would get his fur over on all your stuff, and there's God. But that's not what they meant by God. They didn't mean that was God. But wait, why not? Why couldn't that be God? How do you know? Why? Maybe the cat is God. Uh, it's like, how would we know? How would we?
The Egyptians worship
the Egyptians
cats
were right.
like
Yeah,
gods,
right. Yeah. So
and
why not?
The cats haven't forgotten that.
Maybe we're all God. Maybe that's the thing. Who knows? And so that's kind of there's this thing called ichtheism. That's the idea that because the word God is so incoherent, that even saying God makes no sense. So the theists are wrong, the atheists are wrong. Anyone that uses the word God is just wrong. And I go, I'm kind of an atheist, but I'm not really, because I don't agree with that. There are the God word does mean something to somebody. It just means something to many people in a different way. And yes, it's incoherent, but that doesn't mean everybody's wrong about when they say God, because it's still a word that we use. And you would have to then say, well, you have to be atheist in regards to other words that are ambiguous. And that would, well, that could be a big problem, because natural language tends to make it a problem.
And then I want to touch a little bit on the social issues of the day with gender and sexuality. And I agree with you. I think that evolution explains gender and sexuality better than anything else could, because nature likes diversity. It likes to try all kinds of things, and people like different foods, different music, different partners.
Yeah, yeah.
It when you're made in some kind of a mold, it kind of takes away from everybody's individuality, doesn't it?
Right, right.
You
The
know,
label,
why isn't everybody artistic? You know, I mean,
yeah,
I would
right.
love to be able to draw, but you know, my hand just does stick figures, you know. But you know, that's why I told somebody that's why I took drafting classes in school, because I couldn't do it freehand. But
Mm.
I could make real beautiful drawings with drafting tools, because I'm better with tools, and I used them as tools. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, when you're made in the image of, doesn't it
Mm.
take away our uniqueness and everything that
Oh,
makes us special?
yeah, and of course that language is deliberately ambiguous, because, well, what does God look like if you're talking about the Judeo-Christian father? Well, Yahweh, you can find a statue of Yahweh. You can know what he looks like. That's what he looks like. But at some point somebody was like, let's not have that, because we don't want idols. Because the problem with an idol is it could be stolen, it could be defaced, it could be destroyed. And so now God lives on a mountain. So put God there. That's where God is. Well, people can go up to a mountain. Okay, so God lives now in the sky. Well, eventually people might go to the sky. He's above the skies in the universe. Well, people are going into the universe. So he's beyond space and time. That's the evolution of apologetics. It really is. It's just that simple. It's like God started here on Earth, but you could find God, so put him on a mountain. Right? It's harder to get to him. Put him in the sky. Put him up in the stars. Now put him beyond space and time. Nobody's going there to find him. Well, yeah, because there's nothing there. There's no where or when. If you're beyond space time, there's no place for you to be. Um,
But then again, wouldn't that would have to be a place, though, right?
yeah, it would. Yeah, God has to be
It has
somewhere.
to be in it. Yeah.
So it doesn't. It's not coherent. And then I'm like, and then okay, so where's Jesus? Because Jesus is a has a body like we do, and ascended into heaven. Well, what's that mean, to ascend into heaven? Did he rise up into the sky? Because they thought heaven was up there. Well, heaven's not up there. Heaven's in, where is heaven? Well, it's everywhere. It's a different dimension, or, well, then that's somewhere. Then there is a space, because you have to put Jesus's body somewhere. So
And
where's
up
Jesus's
there isn't
body?
coherent.
Yeah,
Up
up
there
there.
isn't
Yeah,
coherent either, because we're on a
right,
spinning planet.
right. Well,
So
yeah, exactly. Well, he's up
it,
there.
it,
Well,
it was it was over. Wait! It's
yeah,
coming back
well,
around.
yeah. Well, and plus the whole thing, well, the whole Earth, not just it's in the spinning, but it's worse than that, because it's also orbiting the sun. But it's worse than that because the sun is going like this way, so we're like doing this spiral thing. So Jesus is like way back there now,
Somewhere over there.
because we left him far behind. So that's the problem with if you were a ghost, and you could jump through physical objects, well, then the problem is not you're going to get flung off the planet, or you're going to go straight into the middle of the planet. But are you going to stay there because the planet, everything is moving? So, of course, time travel, of course, can't time travel because the Earth will be over there tomorrow. And so, see, today it's here, and then like it was there in the past, but then you need something like way far away from us to pinpoint and say that is the same no matter where we are. And then like you had to do some complicated math to figure that, and it's going to give you a headache. Like, put it in an AI, yeah, that will fix it.
Chat GPT, please.
Yeah, Chat GPT. You need that in your time machine, or it just doesn't work. So, yeah, but no time travel movie wants to cover that complexity, because even Primer, that was like this like super like complicated thing, was like they ignored that the planet's constantly moving. It's like, how do you have to know where it's going to be, not just when. You also, it was, like over there in the past. Anyways, whatever. See, that's what got them talking to time travel, probably, because it's like, it's just somehow it ties into God in some way, because why not? God is beyond. If God is beyond or atemporal or whatever, then you and I are already talking to God, because we're already there. Everybody is already dead, and everybody's also alive in God's eyes, right? So you're already dead, and your ghost is already looking at you because heaven's atemporal. Why not? You would think a skeptic would go back and be like, hey guys, I'm a ghost. Like, the skeptic ghost would want to be found. So, I can understand the faithful ghost messing with people, but the skeptical ghost, they'd want people to know about them. So, that's why you shouldn't believe in that.
And if you go to heaven, you're supposed to be healed. And
right.
You're supposed to have a great body and everything. But when Jesus died and went to heaven and then came back, he still had a big holes in him. So
it only takes when you go permanently, I guess. I don't know.
I guess. The examples are always poor.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And you're not meant to make sense of these things in that way that we like to make sense. You and I might like to make sense of it, because it's such a story and metaphor driven that it is meant to be interpreted in all these ways. And so what God is has to change for each person. And of course, each person, because we are one chain in evolution, my brain and your brain and their brain and whatever, they're all different, and the bodies are different, and body parts are different. Now we've got some people have all the different things inside of them, and some of them on the outside. And seen people with, where they had a twin that was fused into them, so they have an extra leg coming out of them. And and there's just
do you get that back?
Yeah, exactly. Like, does the rest of the twin get their entire body back when, like, how did, it's just. And there was this guy had his brain hemisphere, they cut it in half, they split it. He was still alive, but they had to separate the hemispheres for some reason, and they were able to communicate with both sides. The left side was an atheist, the right side was a theist. So I'm like, I guess the right side of his brain goes to heaven, and the left side goes to hell. Like, how does it work? How does any of it work? And well, it works in your imagination. That's where it works. And we humans can imagine things, and that's a good thing. But also, when we believe that the imagination is real, that's what leads to problems. And we're very prone to do that because we love stories. We love,
Well, so. I have to bring up that, everybody that watches my shows and our Grassman Chronicles, The grass man is what we call in Ohio a Bigfoot. And I'm a fan of Bigfoot, and we have a lot of fun talking about Bigfoot. And on page 132, you're talking about Bigfoot. So that is definitely a sign from Bigfoot that I would read your book and you would mention Bigfoot, and I had to say, "All hail Bigfoot!"
All hail Bigfoot.
All hail
Yeah,
Bigfoot.
yeah,
But yeah, it might as well be Bigfoot, right? Why not?
sure. Why not? I mean, if an entity that has these extraordinary abilities exists, then it literally could be anything and everything all at the same time. And why not? Why couldn't it be Bigfoot and then just vanish? Only allow itself to get pictures that are really crummy and then just disappear and like literally disappear.
And Deconverted Man and I share a kindred storytelling. I've used Bigfoot and he uses a lobster, which is
right.
basically our response to presuppositionalists, right?
Oh yeah. It's like, well, yeah, sure, yeah. Lobsters exist, premise one, and then, well, if lobsters exist, then I'm not God, but lobsters do exist, so therefore I must be God. There you go. Why not? And that's the problem. You and I were evident to each other. I can see you, you can see me, we can hear each other, we can communicate. Now, obviously, before I knew of you, I didn't even know you existed, right? But that's fine. Uh, well, why would I expect to know about you? I mean, why would you expect to know me? There's no reason, And somebody that's well known, somebody has appeared on television and movies and radio and whatnot. Well, they're probably going to be. There's going to be places you could go where nobody knows who that is. They're not familiar with the name, but more than likely people will know who you're talking about. Oh, Mick Jagger. Okay, we know who Mick Jagger is. Who is he? Is that he was in the guy? He was in the film. No, he's a singer. Oh, okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about. That kind of. But, well, if we doubted Mick Jagger's existence, we could go verify the damn thing if we wanted. And we might even get to be able to talk to him if we tried hard enough, wrote enough letters, emails, whatever, talk to his publicist, somebody somewhere. We could figure out how to contact the guy and actually get a response. And it was just like, look, we just want you to say hi. Of course, now there's Cameo where you can pay celebrities to do that. So maybe he's on Cameo. But with God, for whatever bizarre reason, it's completely not like humans. You can't find God in the way that you can find a person. So if there is a God, I think that it doesn't matter to us because we have each other. And maybe that's all we need. And so therefore we must help each other as best as we can. And so we can take certain things from the Bible and use them. There's this idea, one sword sharpens the other. Well, that's not really how you sharpen swords, but nonetheless, it's an interesting idea. So we're both swords. So I want to keep you sharp. You want to keep me sharp. I like that idea. But we don't need the religion to have that good idea. Plus, it'd probably be better if one of us was a grindstone, because that's how you really sharpen things. We'll just take turns being the grindstone. I'll be the grindstone sometimes. You be the grindstone sometimes. Maybe you don't want to be a sword. I don't know. But look, just to keep the metaphor going, And so we can help each other improve as humans. Well, what's that mean?
Just don't cross streams.
Yeah. I mean, what's it mean to improve?
That's bad.
Yeah.
Unless you need to, then cross streams, because then it's good.
And we're learning more about how humans work all the time, and a lot of the hatred and anger that you'll see is because people don't know how things work here. Right.
And that's going right into my next notes here. We figure things out And one of the big arguments we hear from theists and apologists is to make life in the lab. Now, let's say Deconverted Man and I go out in the garage and we get our beakers out and we get busy, right? And next thing you know, there's something swimming around in that beaker that wasn't there before. What are they going to say, Deconverted Man?
Oh, it took intelligence. It was intelligently designed.
It took a mind, so that proves God.
There you go. So that proves God. Cannot, right back to square one.
They waste how much time and arguments demanding these tests and these results and these experiments when they know the whole time they're just going to say, well, that just proved my point.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You had to do it in the lab.
Yeah. Years ago, I talked to this guy, Matt Slick, who runs a website called Carm. And during that conversation, I was like, well, I know that they've used, simulation on a computer, to show, the evolution or something like that. And he's like, oh, well, that took a mind. So I was like, well, so, because he kept switching back and forth between agreeing with evolution and not. And I couldn't pin him down on what the bleep his position was. So it's like, well, no matter what, you're right. Like, there's a mind involved. I'm like, you can believe that. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I have the problem is when you say that it's true, that it's real. That's the problem. If you would just admit that it's a belief, not a fact, we wouldn't have a problem. We wouldn't need to debate you. If you said, I believe in God, whatever, okay, fine, I don't care. Believe in whatever. But when you say there is a God, now you have this thing called the burden of proof. And theists fail that.
And it goes, and it's not just to pick as a skeptic, it goes for anything. Rabbit's foot or a four-leaf clover or a palm reader.
Yeah.
If you're making a claim, and especially if you're making money from it, and you're not just minding your own business at home, then you're inviting the skeptics and everybody to pick it apart.
Right.
Or if you're trying to get into the government and pass laws against people, then it becomes again, you're not staying at home with Bigfoot or God or whatever.
Yeah.
No, now you want, and I'm all for Bigfoot, but I'm not going to tell anybody they have to believe in Bigfoot or else.
Yeah,
that's a line.
It's one thing if you want to put a Bigfoot statue in your property.
I have one.
Yeah, who cares, But it's another thing when you take it to the public square and you're like, well, I would like to pay for a Bigfoot statue to be put here. It's like, well, that's a public area. If you're going to put a statue there, I want to put a statue. And then, of course, everybody puts the statue there, and then
and for my birthday, my family got me an Easter Island statue, so that's out by the pond too. So
right.
It's really, really cool. I had to mention that because it was an awesome gift. So,
yeah, it
might as well be the Easter Island head for all that matter too, right?
When you have an unfalsifiable idea like God can be, then you can always move the goalpost back and just say, well, that proved my point. So you need to have a way to falsify the idea. You have to have a condition that says, if X is true, then I'm wrong. And X has to be something that could actually be true. You can't make it something that will never be true. It's like, well, if I find there's a square circle, then, I'm not really a lobster. No. It's got to be something that actually could be,
And that's one of my next notes here is let's test it.
Yeah, let's test it.
So how do we test it? What do you think?
I mean, there's all sorts of ways. It depends on what the claim is. Let's say there's a God. Okay. God cares about me. I've been told that at any rate. All right. Well, Captive Desk cares about me to some extent. I don't know how
A
much, but
little bit.
okay. A little bit, that's fine. All right. So I say, hey, Captive Desk, say move for me, and maybe you'll move. Maybe I don't feel like doing that. But at least you said something, I'm like, hey, Captive Desk, do this, I don't know. Do something arbitrary. Do something silly for me. Why? Because I'm deconverted. Just do it. Just so I can make a point. Just do a thing. It doesn't matter what you do. Just do something silly. And he's not doing anything silly because Captain
I did do that in the intro in case you didn't notice. I put a UFO in there.
Yeah, right. So you did something, right? Yeah. So
I did something for you. So
so
there
you
you
did
go.
something for me, right? And then I go, okay, well then I know Captive Desk at some level cares about me because here we are on this channel, we're talking, spending time and energy on me. Okay. Now you're telling me God cares about me in a way that's even remotely similar to Captive Desk's caring about me. Yes. Okay. That's what I've been told. All right. Now, what more is there about God? Well, God could do anything, really anything it wants, whatever. Okay, cool. God can defy gravity, sure. Cool. Okay, well, I've got this blue sheep here from Minecraft. It's a Minecraft sheep. Uh, and he's blue,
You're gonna make my son's day.
and put him on my hand. And can God hear me? Oh yeah, God can hear me right now as I speak. That's what they tell me. I'm like, okay, God, levitate this blue sheep off my hand right now. If you care about me so much, damn thing won't levitate. I've tried this many, many times. Damn thing, no matter what it is, could be blue sheep, could be Pikachu, doesn't matter. God doesn't lift it off it could just go into the air, and that would be I always have this like moment. I'm like, maybe this time it will happen. Nope. Damn. And it's like, why am I disappointed? Well, because I would love for it to happen. But that would be amazing. Well, you and I would be like, and then I'd have to spend the rest of the hour trying to convince you that I hadn't rigged it to do it because you would think it was a trick. And I'd be like, no, it wasn't a trick. I swear. But it would
I've
convince.
said, yeah, when I'm accused of being closed-minded, and I was like, no. I hate driving in traffic. Okay. If I could just teleport over to the store or to the restaurant or to my relative's house or what, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but then I'm told the moment
I got
I
no
do,
problem with it. Bring it. Bring
so
it.
I do the test, very simple test. I thought, hell, if Captive Desk was here, Dave could just grab the damn thing. That's close enough. That's levitating ish, because we can't levitate things. We need to move it with our hand. Okay. Move it with your brain. Well, that's your hand. No, but my brain is making my hand move. So I am moving it with my brain. But, okay, whatever. But God won't do that. And they said, well, you can't test God. I'm like, well, why not? Why can't you test God?
Well, if we're in the image and likeness of, God tests us all the time.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
shouldn't it go both ways?
Yeah, right. Oh, God.
But
No. Whatever. And it's like, so then you have an untestable idea. Okay, so you have zero evidence for it. You don't, you look, you say, well, I don't see it. There's no way to visualize this phenomenon. Now there's no test for it. Well, that's bad. So, okay, I don't have any empirical evidence at all for it. I don't have any repeatable tests I can do on it. What could I possibly have that might maybe verify it? Well, philosophy. Okay. What you got in philosophy? Because anybody in philosophy can say anything. I can write a book and say I'm a philosopher. Now I'm a philosopher.
And we're right back to insert Bigfoot or a lobster, and it's the same argument, right?
So, okay, well, then we need a system. So what system we're going to use? We're not going to use the scientific method. Fine. What are we going to use? There's only one system in philosophy that has rules. It's called logic. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have a valid and sound argument for God. Oh. Well, St. Augustine back in the day thought, all these dang atheists, they keep annoying me with their damn arguments. I'm gonna make an argument for God. And he made a few arguments for God. And for his day, they were pretty impressive because we didn't know a lot about science. But now, those arguments suck bane. And actually, even at the time, they sucked bane. There's
But then
one
apologists just start a
just
file that says, don't use these are bad arguments.
yeah.
When you have a bad argument folder, that
oh yeah, well that would be nice. It would be nice if apologists would admit that these arguments are bad. But what's amazing to me is that the years that I've been doing Deconverted Man, I don't recall a single theist, except for my brother, who's ever admitted that no, there was one person that admitted that the original argument sucked, but they don't want to admit that the argument has a fallacy. Not even one. And I'm like, all you have to do is change this, and I'll fix it for them. I'll say, here's the argument. Here's how it should look. This
allow
works.
me.
Allow me. Here. It's got to be a hypothetical. That's first of all. That negates a lot of problems with all these arguments. Make it a hypothetical syllogism. Most of the fallacies fall away. You still have problems, but they're going to be different problems. But okay, so they don't have a valid and sound argument, at least that I'm aware of. Now I cannot make the claim that there is none because I haven't seen all the arguments. I can only say that of the ones I have seen, they've all had at least one logical fallacy. And that's a problem because utilizing the system of logic alone and nothing else, if you have a logical fallacy, that means that the conclusion is one that you can't know anything about. It might be true, might be false, doesn't matter. So I say what we do with that conclusion is we're just going to hold it in stasis. We're going to call that skepticism, being skeptical of it, not doubting it, because it could be true. I'm not saying it's false. I'm not saying it's true. It's there on hold until you fix your broken argument. So one example could be like either my light is on or off. Okay, well, obviously there's a light, but we're going to pretend that we're using just logic so we don't see the light. So either the light is on or off. That's premise one. Okay, this is disjunctive syllogism. Premise two is that if lobsters exist, then the light is off. Well, that's kind of a weird premise, but okay. So conclusion is, well, since lobsters do exist, then the light must be off, but the damn light's on. Well, something went wrong in the argument somewhere. There was a logical fallacy that happened in premise two. Lobsters existing and the light being on or off are not connected in any way, shape, or form. Thus, I failed to show association and causation. And because of that logical fallacy, we had to doubt, or rather, we had to be skeptical. I always say doubt, and I got to kick that out of my brain. Sorry. We had to be skeptical of the conclusion. Now, in reality, the damn light's on, but it doesn't matter. We're using just logic. We're saying maybe the light's on, maybe it's off. I don't know. Your argument sucks. Go fix premise two. I don't want to fix premise two. Why? I don't know, because I really like the argument. I wrote this as part of my doctoral thesis to get my PhD, so I really got to defend that argument. Well, that was kind of dumb. Maybe you should have checked to see if the argument had a fallacy or two in it. Well, it didn't seem like it did at the time. You know, okay, William Lane Craig, look, your argument sucks. Okay, fix your argument. Fix your argument.
Get in my head. He's talking about William Lane Craig, isn't he?
Yeah. So now we don't have. Okay, so we don't have. So because
and also throw in there too that you've got the good God, bad God argument too, right?
Oh yeah, of course. But okay, so if the argument has even one fallacy, you have to be skeptical of the conclusion. Might be true, might be false, doesn't matter. So the system of logic is there to save us some time and energy. If you want to explore the conclusion separate from logic, you're free to do it. But using just that system, one fallacy, that's it, you're done. You don't have to continue with the rest of the argument, analyzing it for logical fallacies. If you identify one, doesn't matter. The rest is going to break down because of that one, more than likely. And in fact, that usually happens. You get more fallacies because of the first one. You don't ever get less. I've not seen that happen. So, okay, so then what do we have? So we don't have any empirical evidence, no repeatable test, no valid and sound argument. Faith. Just faith. Just believe X. Why? Because believe it. Why? Well, because it feels good to believe it. Well, okay. Fair enough. Is it true? No. Maybe. I don't know. Don't know. Maybe it's true. Don't know if it's true. But I'm going to believe it's true. Why? Because I want to. But that's not how you arrive at the truth. But if you don't care about that, or if you're willing to set that aside, then
it's the Bible is the truth. I've been told that many, many times. It's the truth. And I always ask, what is the truth?
Yeah. Which version of the Bible are we talking about? And of course, I just dealt with King James Onlyist, and those guys always drive me up the wall because, like, you know that the scholars all pretty much say that version sucks, right? Like, oh, well, that's just an appeal to authority. I'm like,
that's what they gave me. That's what they gave me at church too. So it was real popular to hand out, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, but if you just have pure faith and that's all you have, fine, I understand that, but at least admit it. At least be honest with yourself and others and say it's just faith. And then we, of course, those pesky skeptics will say, well, but couldn't you believe anything via faith? And the answer is yes. You can believe anything you want via faith. Nothing's off limits. That's a problem.
I often say all supernatural claims are equal in their validity.
Yeah.
Prove a god, prove a ghost, prove a palm reader that can pick the lotto every week.
It would be
demonstrate it.
It would fundamentally change everything. The day that if aliens ever actually visit Earth and not are faked in Mexico, because that's a thing that happened, that would change everything. And if a thing appeared just out of nowhere and said it was God, how would we know it was God? Could be lying to us. Maybe it just has power or has transporters, instantaneous transport. Don't know. Well, maybe it could read my mind.
Some teenager that's hacked a time machine. In
the future, right, exactly.
Just coming back to screw with people.
Oh yeah. I'm totally
watch this. I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to tell them all this crazy stuff. Let's see if they believe it or not. They believe it. They believe it.
Yeah. So a real God.
Who's to say not? Well, they say you can't time travel back, only forward. But if we're dealing supernatural, the rules are off.
Of course,
so
the rules. Yeah, and so a real God would know your thoughts. So would it? Okay. Well, and of course, the Christians have an interesting sort of solution for this. It's very bizarre. The real God will only ever talk about the God of the Bible. Jesus and God, Yahweh, will only ever reference the Bible itself. So so the devil will pretend to be some other God that's not that religion, even though the devil's an addition that the church made and isn't in the Bible, but who cares about that? But that trickster will make up a different God and pretend that God's real. Oh, okay.
But luckily the Bible says to wear clothes. Otherwise, deconverted man would be naked.
Well, yeah. Well, no. But it also says to sell all your worldly possessions to the poor and the widows. So
give the shirt off your back and ask for nothing in return.
Yeah, well, that would be interesting if only people would follow it. Wouldn't that be, guys?
A lot of those things, it would be tough to argue against, wouldn't it? I often say, I think Sam Harris said, if you want to know a religion, look at its extremists.
Mm-hmm.
And the extremists are always bad.
Yeah.
Where you figure the extremists would be like Mr. Rogers or somebody. Where they're just so incredibly good at making the rest of us look bad. right?
Yeah, and that they're
But
so, and
that's
that they're
not the
humble about
extremist.
it, and they don't, they're charitable, and they're
And who's
it's
gonna? Are you gonna badmouth somebody for helping people?
yeah, exactly. I was like,
Who would do that, right? I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna say, wow, what a great person. They're out
yeah,
there crack of dawn helping people. They're out there 7 days a week. These doctors without borders that travel into often hostile places, risking their own life and limb to help
yeah,
others. It's like, good for you.
yeah, and
Who is bad mouthing them, right?
the reason why we do that is because we care about each other, uh, and to some
And we
extent,
need each other, like
we
it or
need
not.
each other. Yeah, we do. And maybe you dislike somebody because they said something stupid at some point. Hey, people say I've never said anything stupid myself, so I don't know. Well,
I've
I,
heard some people have though.
I'm always right,
I wouldn't, yeah,
but
I wouldn't know either.
but I've heard that some people can say, but it's like, oh, you're a racist. Why? Well, because you said that thing that one time. Well, that was one time. Come on, just like let it go. It's like, I'm sorry, and that's the cancel culture. It's like, oh, they said a thing on Twitter, fire them. Like, really? For one thing? Like, that's why. Like, that's just so inanely dumb and stupid, and just silences thought. And how about we just say, you know what? You made a mistake. You're forgiven. Just words. Whatever. You can delete it. Let's move on.
And a lot of us will accept an apology.
Yeah. Well, of course, then
It,
the certain types that are out there that,
if you're
yeah,
sincere and you get
like,
out there and
well,
you say, hey, I'm sorry.
it wasn't a real apology. Keep saying sorry, and it's
Yeah.
like, so then you get, well, what happens because of those noisy people is then you get the idea that you don't apologize because it's not going to get you anything. So and so, well, there's these weird para religions that the internet is creating all the time, because how we interact with each other online, we're trying to codify that. We're trying to put rules on that. Twitter and YouTube and Facebook,
And
everyone's trying. Yeah,
there's the tweet after, last call that maybe you shouldn't have made,
yeah, right, yeah, man, you were kind of,
we understand if you just go,
yeah,
look, I was messed up. I shouldn't have tweeted
yeah.
that. Don't try to make excuses. Everybody's
Yeah,
we're gonna
I was really,
understand.
yeah. I've had my problems with
You,
anger, and there's probably a
you threw
video
a
of
few
me.
words in there you
Yeah, yeah,
shouldn't
yeah, yeah.
have, and
Right, right. Hey, and the great thing is, look, nothing if it's just words, whatever. If it's somebody doing something, well, then that's okay. Somebody comes and knocks on your door, and like, hey, how's it going? Punch you in the face. That's gonna take a little bit more to forgive.
and we're
You
not,
know.
my we're not inciting anything either. We
Right,
don't want
right,
any.
right.
If
It's
you're
like
telling people to do stuff, that's
right,
wrong.
yeah, it's like yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that. I mean, like, maybe it's not a good idea to go and punch somebody in
But
the face.
if you
Let's
do
not
something
do
stupid,
yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm with
but
you. You
yeah,
can't hold stupid against everybody
yeah,
because
right.
we would all have the big S on our
Oh yeah, yeah.
shirt for the rest of our
And
lives. I'm stupid.
there was a court case I read about, and I'd have to go find it if somebody wanted it verified. I'd have to dig through Google to find it, but I remember reading it at any rate. So you can be skeptical of this silly story that involved this guy went to jail for looking up things that he shouldn't have looked up. Leave it at that. And he complained about a headache. And they went to the doctor in jail, and they're like, seems like it's more than a headache. And so they sent him, they got him a CAT scan. He had a tumor in his head that was pushing on his brain. They took out the tumor, and he was cured of that. He wasn't that anymore. He didn't want anything to do with that stuff that he had looked up before. So the thing in his head was making him do those things. That's pretty amazing. Now, it's not always that that's the case, but that means something. That to some degree, what we do is dictated by chemicals or maybe some external force in our head. So could we have a cure for diseases or whatever you want to call it that we don't like in society? Maybe we could. I don't
And
know.
other mental health
Yeah.
issues too. You mentioned mental health in here as well.
Oh yeah, mental health.
And yeah, if somebody's having issues, yeah, do we hold it against them? And like, yeah, well, if they get treatment and then they don't have the issue anymore, and it's like, yay, science, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now
another win for science, right?
Of course, you will get the person say, "Well, but there's some person that's unfixable," and I'm like, we don't know that. One, secondly, let's just pretend that there is. The percentages of people that are going to be completely unfixable by whatever we have today is probably going to be really, really small. Fine. We hold them somewhere until we figure out what to do with them. But let's not use that as an excuse to not help those we can today. And we need to this requires us to re-examine our current justice system, education system, etc., etc., etc. And that's work. Oh, it's so much work. It's just so easier to just hate people and be angry. And yeah, it's hard to accept. Look, I've been known to have my issues with language changing because I view that there's potential logical problems that could happen with adoption of certain words into other words, and what does it mean to be X, Y, and Z. And I'm a little bit nervous about that because of logical things. And some people take that the wrong way. Fair enough. Because, well, we want people to be treated kindly and with respect and dignity. And could it be that they have some sort of disease? Could be. I don't know. I'm no scientist. I'm no neurologist. Is this thing going to help them? It might hurt them. Don't know. So let them figure it out. And we're sorting that out slowly with society as a whole, and we're all stumbling our way forward. And the thing that impedes our forward progress every single time, without hesitation or doubt, is religion. Period. End of story. It's always religion that messes with our getting to the point where we accept humanity for what it is, flaws and all, and even strive to fix the flaws.
We were talking about comedians earlier.
Yeah.
And Jim Jeffries does the bit about all the atheist scientists and everything are on the train and they're in the engine compartment. And then you've got all the agnostics and all the wishy-washy effers. They're in the middle car. And then you've got all the religious folks and the believers and all this nonsense. And they're in the back car of the train. And at some point, they got to be asking themselves, if we just reached down and pulled this pin out, the train would go so much faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, speaking of other media too, I noticed I wanted to mention, because we're getting about an hour and a half in here. So I wanted to mention, though, you brought up the movie God on Trial. And I've watched it at least a dozen times. It's a great movie.
Fantastic.
If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on YouTube. You can watch it for free.
It's hard to watch. It is, but it
is emotional. It's about a concentration camp. And if that kind of stuff bothers you, then maybe you shouldn't watch it. But it is powerful. It is biblical, and it makes and Deconverted Man and I would both I think that's what you mentioned was the atheist that's there. And near the end, when they're getting picked to go to the showers, The atheist told the Jewish people in the camp, you know, they took everything away from you. They took your property, they took your clothes, they took the fillings out of your mouth, but don't let them take away your faith. It's very powerful for when from a non-believer. It's like, you know, yeah, be damned anybody try to take anything away from anybody. If you want to have your faith.
Sure. Why
but
not?
don't get to the point where you want to put others in camps.
Yeah, because that was right.
The
That was
difference.
that was the Nazi faith was, these people are bad and they need to go away, and that will make things better. Well, no, it won't. Maybe they working together would have made things better. Let's try that. Might be worth a try. Heaven's not a real place as far as I can tell, but maybe we can make this place pretty darn good if we work together. And if we love each other, we do our best, maybe we'll get there. It's worth trying.
Well, look at it this way. Everything we have so far is because we did it for ourselves. So we've got, yes, things weren't always great in the history. And yes, things are not 100% today. But overall, humanity has gotten better. So many places and other countries are getting there too, where most of the world is having it pretty good. Now, we need to take care of some places, but most of the world, you know, can go to a store and get food. They have electricity, and it's not supernatural. It's because we got busy, and brilliant minds got busy in some lab somewhere, and a lot of people did a lot of hard work building roads and highways and stringing wires so we can talk on the internet.
Right, exactly. And
so there's a good track record for us.
I would say,
things.
And if there is a God and an afterlife or whatever, fine. I guess I'll be surprised by all that. And but we do appear to be on our own, and so if you're gonna have a belief, temper it with reason so that you don't bring harm to others. You can follow whatever rules you want, but you don't need to tell other people that they're breaking your rules.
Well, I've got a thinker for you. If Jesus did come back, okay? All right. Now Jesus comes back. There's peace on earth. Everybody has food in their stomach. Nobody's suffering from a mild ailment that we have at the local pharmacy to treat. But nobody's Christian. Would Jesus be upset?
If he's really God, why would he care? You know, that's the other thing. Is why would God care if we believed in it or not, or liked it?
So, yeah, let's believe in what you want. Believe in Bigfoot. Believe in the lobster.
Well,
believe that it is wrong in this world where we have plenty, that we can't get it to people that need it to. We're running out of excuses.
In all seriousness, the lobster, we can't mess around with that, because there is 3 books called of the lobsterist on my profile, and they're real. They prove that they're real. Just read them. Anyways, okay.
and I wanted to say, I deconverted man and I like to have a good time and have a few laughs, and I really wanted to find something to pick on him about reading his book, but it was really hard to find anything. I did find a couple spelling errors.
That's my editor, not my fault.
I am gonna point that out. But he was appreciative, and he was
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to take care of them.
we're fixing those. Yeah, yeah,
no
yeah.
hard feelings or anything.
Yeah, that's the great thing on print on demand is it can get fixed really easily.
But
So.
I would recommend that. Yeah, if anybody wants to read like I say, very fair to the people in the past. Not bad mouthing people or anything. Very nice talking about the church folks and the pastor and everything that I think you said you would still call him a friend today, right?
Absolutely.
And there's, he goes over some of the things we were talking about, logical fallacies. What are your definitions? A few of the good and bad arguments. And of course, he mentioned Bigfoot, so it can't be all bad, right? I mean, it says Bigfoot in there, so all hail Bigfoot.
All right.
And otherwise, I read it in about 3 sittings, about 70 pages at a sitting. So yeah, it doesn't take you forever to read or anything. So yeah, if you like to read about deconversion and a little bit of this and that, and mention Bigfoot, and not bad mouthing people, open-minded, okay, open-minded as a non-believer, make sure you get Dan Green's book. It's in the description below. I got the Amazon link down there, and his channel and everything too. And what else? Oh, and I wanted you to say it for us. Caught
between an infinite hope and a finite despair,
by Dan Green.
Thank you so much, Captain Desk.
Hey, thank you. And it was a good, like I say, it was a good read, and it was fun that you challenged me to read it and do a review.
It was a flippant thing at the end of a video. It's like I say random stuff.
I said, all right. I'm gonna order that book. I'll show this guy.
Why not? So,
I wanted to, everybody check it out. Buy his book. He's got others up there too. Why don't you tell them about your other books too?
The other book, I only have 2 right now, but hopefully I'll have more at some point. But the other one is Lightbringer, and that one's not true at all as far as I know. But it's let's tell this Bible story, but from Satan's perspective. And so that's what that book is what really happened, told from the perspective of the Lightbringer, who is portrayed as the bad guy in the Judeo-Christian Bible, even though he's really not in there, but that's a whole nother thing. But in the book, he actually exists, and there's different adventures that explain all the things of Christianity and how it came about, because he was doing stuff. And so yeah, if you want just something kind of fluffy to read, that's what that is. Plus it's a really good hammer. Not really good, it's a decent hammer.
Fly swatter.
Yeah, maybe.
Sometimes
holds open doors, kind of. Because of my ad, I had an ad for it on my channel where I explained that you could use it as a hammer. So yeah, that's a thing. Or you could put it on your head for like a hat or something.
Posture.
Yeah.
Practice that. That's that old school.
Also, if you buy it, it has been known to make you smarter. It's also been known to cure hiccups and other claims that are completely unverified and unverifiable that I could make about it.
And I'm sure it works just as well as anything else.
Yeah, if you pray to it, sometimes the prayer will be answered. Some, like in a yes, sometimes it will be no, and sometimes it will be try again. So it's very handy. It's quite useful.
That's why I got a Bigfoot statue out back.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Keeping an eye on things.
All right. hey everyone, listen. We didn't have empirical evidence, repeatable tests, or a valid and sound argument for God, and so because of that, we should be skeptical of the conclusions.
And if we get better evidence, we're going to have him back on because he's going to have to edit his book. And I want to thank. I see your eyes moving. I want to thank everybody that joined us. Appreciate everybody in the chat, Blaster and Nara and Carrie, always a pleasure. Scott, Duke, and Mike were both through. I saw Gurr. Let's see. I'm missing anybody here.
Carrie, Annie.
Carrie Ann's always Sydney. Sydney was here too. Good to see you.
Scott, Duke.
Tux TV was by. And Bree was here.
Mike, pronouncing that last name will not happen.
Brzezinski?
Whatever. I don't know. I can't say words. It's Bruz. I don't know. Brasnak. Yeah, that's it.
And Chris. Chris, good to see you, Chris. Thanks for stopping by.
Sydney Raptor. Can you imagine a place full of pious, righteous, better than thou, ignorant psychopaths riding around on high horses? Yes.
And you got anything to plug there, Deconverted Man? Anything?
No, we plugged everything. That's it. That's all I got.
All the holes are plugged.
It's all downhill from here.
Well, everybody knows you never know when Deconverted Man's going to pop on. He's got a lot of things to say. Day or night, you just never know. So make sure you're subscribed. Put a bell on so you know when he's going to pop on. Something comes up in his mind. And I think that's it. I've got something here to share, and we're going to close it out with this. Let me get a screen share up here. And that'll wrap up the show. If I can get it clicked up here. One moment, please. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And if you like content like this, if you like these types of conversations, subscribe with a bell so you get notified, and drop us a comment. If you got any questions for Deconverted Man or myself, I'll make sure to respond or get it to him.
And if you don't like it, also subscribe and watch it.
And subscribe to Deconverted Man. And all hail the lobster, all hail Bigfoot, and I hope everyone has a good one. Thanks again, Deconverted Man.
Goodbye. All right. Are they all gone now? No, we're still on. No, it's not working. Nope. Not working. Can't hear a thing. It's not playing. Can't hear it. Don't work. Can't hear it. Help. Not playing. Can't hear it. Lol. It's not working.
I can hear it. Oh well. We tried.
Yeah, we tried. Screw it. Oh well. Goodbye, everybody.
Well.
Oh well. Yeah.
I guess we're having some audio problems. All right. Well, we tried to have a little laugh there at the end.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about
it. Well, it's funny that it didn't work.
It's better this way.
All right, Deconverted Man, you're gonna have to sing. You're gonna have to sing.
Okay.
Logic is our friend. We love
logic to
logic
the end.
to the end.
All right,
La
wait,
la
wait, wait.
la la.
Here, wait. Get this off the screen here. Get Logic ate me off of there. Put me back. Here we go. Okay. Captive Desk. He's amazing. If you insult him, you'll get a blazing. He's our powers. No, that's no, that's not. No, that's Captain Planet. Never mind. I'll come